Okay, we're getting to the close of our of day two. We have a very exciting session to finish. So if you are thinking of leaving, this is one that you shouldn't miss. First thing I want everyone to do is to come a little closer if you'd like, to clear your desks. This is a session that needs clear desks. Time to remove the clutter. And as you do that, I want you to think about creativity, because creativity is one of those things where you meet too many people who tell you, but I'm very uncreative. And I don't think there is anybody who's uncreative. That simply means that they haven't been shown how to think about things outside the square. Okay, we're going to clear the desks and then we're going to hand out some items which will help David, who is our presenter, David Seguera, through his presentation. There's a lovely quote on creativity, which is that creativity is the currency of the future. And if we think about everything we've learnt today from the Futures Foundation, then this afternoon's session should be a lot of fun. Okay. Ready, David? So clearly creativity is a learned skill. It requires a process that opens the imagination, that removes the barriers and promotes experimentation. David is from Art Business. He's an expert in creative facilitation and thinking about new ways to get us to operate and open our brains. So it's time to get a bit interactive, time to get a bit creative, time to draw, I'm led to believe. So welcome David Seguera. Have some fun this afternoon, mate.
Thank you. Welcome, everyone. Hold on a moment. We'll just wait till some things are being distributed to your tables. You should get a piece of paper. You should get a teeny tiny white envelope with a little picture of me on it, and you should also get a piece of ivy out of my garden in downtown Canberra, brought here specially for you with love. Thank God for Samsonite, huh? So we'll just wait till that happens. And did you want me to sing a little song by ABBA while we're waiting? No, I can't do it. It was all trick. Well, I might start while people are receiving materials. And if you haven't got materials, just put your hand up. You need three things, remember. Yep, paper, an envelope, and ivy. It's a little bit chaotic, but we're getting there. Now, careful, some of the ivy's a little bit wet, so pop it on the table rather than the paper. So has everybody got everything? Okay, put your hand up if you haven't got everything. Okay, I'm going to start. So thank you for your patience. Before I commence, I would like to acknowledge the people who spoke before me, both earlier today and yesterday, and to the organisers of this important work. Those people have brought us to this very moment. I'd like to acknowledge you for staying here in the graveyard shift. My name is David Seguera, and I'm committed to the transformational power of art. I'm interested in being with people as they discover a place for art in their lives. Although my work takes many forms, I'm an artist. I work in art museums and I work with the corporate sector in staff management and business development in a project that I devised called Art Business. Many of my clients have not picked up a brush for 20 to 30 years. The session that I run with them raises all sorts of issues, excitement, fears and memories. Some good, some not so good. Art Business is a time to revisit childhood. Yesterday, David Grayson said that globally responsible leadership is a call for engagement. It is a fundamental recognition of interconnectedness. What I want to propose is that Art Business allows us to practice interconnectedness and engagement. Space, the final frontier. One of the themes that comes up for me again and again is the idea of space, and perhaps this theme has resonance for you also. Right now, I want to generate a space with you. I want to generate a space where I can freely share some ideas. I want it to be a space where you are challenged, but where you are comfortable enough to accept the challenge. I want it to be a space where we are all committed to learning something together. The space that I'm talking about is not just physical, it is a kind of relatedness, where agenda-free conversations can take place. The space that I'm proposing is a connectedness that is generated by shared experiences and values. The quality of such spaces has much to do with the implementation of CSR principles. So you all have your materials, a piece of paper, an envelope, and a piece of ivy. Inside your envelope is a piece of charcoal. You don't need to open it just at this moment. There's a charcoal and a tissue, because we need to be responsible and be careful of the carpet and our clothes. And I'm going to ask you to do a drawing soon. And I want you to kind of just have a think. I want you to just be aware of what comes up for you when I say, I want you to do a drawing. What sort of sensations take place in your body? Do you get a little bit breathy? Do your knees go wibbly wobbly? Are your palms sweaty? What comes up in your head? You know, is it the thought, wow, this is cool. This guy is hot. Oh my God, I hate this sort of thing. What has this got to do with CSR? Or I can't draw. For the purpose of this session, it is not important that I know where you are at. It is important that you have a sense of where you're at. So I ask you just to be aware of those things that have come up for you. Just to note them, just to have them be present. Don't fight them, just be with them. Okay, so we're clear about what there is for us when we think about drawing in the context of a conference on CSR. So my request now is that you join me in this process. I want you to just sit, just breathe, and notice your breath. I want you to notice the sounds in this room, the air conditioning, the buzz of the PA system, and any other sounds. Identify them one by one and let them be in the room with us. There are going to be sounds that occur during the session. People are going to be wandering in and out of the room. Just be with those. I don't need you to draw like Leonardo da Vinci. I need you to draw. Now look at your piece of ivy. Place it on the table so that you can see it. Place it on your table so that it looks comfortable. Notice things about it. Do the leaves have a smell? Look closely at the shape of the stem. Is it curly? Is it straight? Find the curliest part of the stem. Find the straightest part of the stem. Are there parts of the stem that are woody? Are there parts that are soft and flexible? Look at the way the leaves are attached to the stem. Is the colour of the leaf stem different to the main stem? Look at the leaves. Find the smallest leaf. Find the largest leaf. Find the lightest green leaf. Find the darkest green leaf. Does the shape of each leaf remind you of anything? Find the pointiest leaf. What's the leaf surface like? Is it dry? Is it waxy, soft, rough? Gently turn a leaf over. Is the underside the same as the top side? Are there some leaves on your piece of ivy that look older than others? Find the oldest leaf find the youngest leaf. Now choose a particular leaf and look closely at the veins. Are they all the same thickness? Are they clearly visible? Where do the veins emanate from? Where do the veins end? Look at the edges of the leaf. Are they straight and sharp? Rough? Scalloped? Now look at your piece of ivy as a cluster of leaves. Look at the parts that are hidden by other leaves. Look at the layer of leaves that is on top. Inside your envelope is a tissue, my business contact details and a piece of charcoal. I ask you to be respectful of the carpet and the furnishings of this room, so make sure that the charcoal doesn't get on the floor. And I invite you to draw the piece of ivy that is in front of you. Don't worry about colouring the ivy in. What we're looking for is a line drawing. I'm asking you to draw from your observation of ivy, not from your perception of ivy. Some advice. Try to keep your page clean. Charcoal is remarkably unforgiving. And many of you have sleeves that can brush up against it. If you place a mark on your page that you don't want to be there, just move along. Like, just ignore it and keep drawing. Make a decision about the way you want your page to go. Do you want your page to be like this or like this? Make a decision about how you want to place the piece of ivy on your page, how you want to draw it, whether you want to draw it across the middle, whether you want to have the piece of ivy creep up one side of the page, creep up the other side, creep down. Make a decision about where it's going to go. Keep your drawing nice and light to start off with. You can always darken the lines later. And my advice, my recommendation, draw the leaves first, add the stem later. Okay, here's the really tough request. The really tough request is that you draw in silence. The really tough request is that you just be with yourself and the materials and the piece of ivy. And resist the opportunity to go into I can't draw mode, or I can't do this, or this is boring, or any of that other internal dialogue. So I'm inviting you to submerge yourself in this activity. Please. So what you've engaged in is one part of an art business session. And whilst I believe that there is real value in the process that you've just been through, the true impact of the exercise is in the discussion that follows that. The process of making art is incredibly rich in metaphor, and it echoes many of the themes that businesses experience. I set this exercise with a group of senior managers who work with the Department of Housing, Mental Health and Employment for the ACT government. This session of art business was developed as part of a 2-day program which reviewed their last 12 months and made projections for the next 12 months. What I wanted this group to have was a profound experience of observation, and I especially wanted them to bring a breadth to their observation of their performance. In a sense, the session was about the process of looking. I want you just to look at the woman on the left and her face and some of the resistance that takes place in this session. But you've got to understand that I wanted this group to create a space where true conversations were possible, a space in which it was safe to take risks, a space in which something else could emerge. At the end of the drawing time, I asked the participants what happened for them. How did it feel to make a drawing? Now, this particular group, you've got to understand, when I walked in the room, you could cut the resentment with a knife. Right, their boss had this really fantastic conversation with me, and I had sent each of these people an individual letter welcoming them to the whole program, and still there was this kind of block between them and me, and it was very much them and me. And so I stopped it, and I stopped the session, stopped my conversation with them, and asked them to talk in pairs, in threes, about what was there for them, and they were ruthless. The emails were piling up on their desks. Their children didn't have lunch when they went to school, so they had to hand them money. There were all sorts of things. They didn't really want to be there. I extended the process of drawing in silence to 40 minutes for these people. 40 minutes, because after 20 minutes, they wanted more. After the first 20 minutes. When I asked them at the end of the 40 minutes what happened to all of those things that they had vented, they literally told me that they disappeared. That they were so engaged in what they were doing that those things did not matter in that moment. They didn't dismiss them, they were still there, but actually what they were engaged in was of importance in that moment. I asked them to think about the marks that they called mistakes. And I asked them if they could look at their mistakes in the context of their successes. I asked them if they could see their mistakes as part of the big picture. I'm pretty heavy-handed with the metaphor. But it's important, and that's where learning takes place. And that's where the symbolism of this project hits hard in terms of the workplace. In the space that we created together, the making of a drawing became a powerful metaphor for the way they observed their performance. The client believed that Art Business challenged her staff into bringing a depth and breadth of reflection to their 12-month review. Previous sessions in this conference have explored what it takes to embed CSR into an organisation. My feeling is that it takes some serious looking and some serious questioning. The process of looking at oneself, of really observing, is not for the faint-hearted. One of the powerful moments of this conference was Ray Anderson describing his realisation of himself as a plunderer. He recalled the time when he read a book and saw something of himself that he had never seen. What Ray described as a moment of surrender, of vulnerability, of letting go, and as a result of that process, something new opened up for him. Until that moment, he had been hiding within the compliance of the law. And then something shifted. The words on the page were alive. Ray let the words in a way that he had never done before, and he wept. In sharing this moment with us, Ray created a space with us that is characterised by humility, generosity, and grace. My belief is that the sorts of changes and practices talked about in this conference can only be implemented if we are truly committed to the process of looking at ourselves critically. Art Business is about just that, the process of noticing how we occur to each other. Art Business takes participants out of their world of words and immerses them in a process of reflection. And I'm hoping that the few minutes that you spent focused on a green piece of living thing in front of you resulted in some sort of shift, resulted in an absorption, even for a few minutes. I want to show you some slides of projects that I run. I use these lilies quite deliberately. They've got an incredibly strong perfume, and people walk in and it's actually quite intoxicating. We spend a lot longer. Look at the quality of results though. These are people who've never drawn before. I mean, look at the hand gesture and the kind of delicacy. I mean, I've given you the Reader's Digest version of what I do. Yeah. Look, I thought I'd show you some of the work that I do as an artist. This is one of my exhibitions. This was from the Art Gallery of New South Wales a few years ago. Those objects on a little shelf are vases, and the paintings are geometric abstract paintings that are based on the vases. And what I don't have here is the soundtrack that went with that. So I took a selection of vases into a recording studio and plonked microphones inside them and clinked them together. Then I worked with a DJ and a sound engineer, and we remixed all of those sounds into very pared back minimal dance music. So what you had was the object abstracted, and the oral object abstracted. And this is part of my idea about creating space. We'll skip these ones because I want to get onto this work. This is a work called My Father's Library. My mum and dad arrived in this country with 2 kids and $100. And in true migrant fashion, the first important thing that they bought was a set of encyclopedia. Before we had a car, before we had furniture, we had the World Book Encyclopedia set. And it came with a children's edition called Childcraft. And the edition that we had, every single spine of that 15-volume set was a different colour of the spectrum. So the connection between knowledge and literature has been, between knowledge, literature and colour has been a very strong symbol for me. I didn't realise at the time, these are just books that I buy and I place them on shelves. I didn't realise at the time that in the process of making that work of art, that what I was actually engaged in was generating a space with my dad that I didn't have before. And that space enabled a conversation and a dialogue with my father that just was not possible before making this work of art. It's had a whole lot of manifestations. This is the picture. This is me looking very arty, and I apologise for that. I also do performance art, and this one is a performance where I filled an entire room, 1927 building, entire room with coloured books, and you can see them organised chromatically, and I sat around reading for a couple of hours and invited people to come in and pick a coloured book and just read. We had about 100 people, I think it was, over the 2 hours come in and sit down and just read in silence with me. But the point I'm making here is that these people want real experiences. I bring in works of art and I talk to them about the chromatic scale, about the colour range, about the spectrum. These are some of my works that I brought into a studio for this particular group. This is a bunch of lawyers. And then this next session, I get them to, they're all given a digital photocopy of a landscape. It's exactly the same landscape for every person. I get them to choose 2 colours, which are next door to each other on the spectrum. And I get them to depict the landscape that they have using those 2 colours plus white. So if they pick yellow and orange, they can mix all of the kind of tangerines and sort of light oranges and lemons that they can. And they each work on the same landscape. And then I ask them, why did you choose the colours you chose? And they will often say, that it's from personal preference. They're my favourite colours. And I ask what the impact of those choices are. And they talk about the mood of the landscape changing. And I ask them to consider the possibility that personal preferences shape their work landscape. So I just want to finish up by just reading out some of the feedback that I get from this program. The first question is, what did you learn about observation? And these are some of my participants' replies. Everyone's observation is different, even when looking at the same thing. You can only observe what is there, not what you expect to be there. Observation needs space and time. Observation is about immersing oneself. Your state of mind dictates how you perceive objects. The next part is, were there any aspects of the session that you found particularly challenging? Awareness that everyone sees things differently. The concept of myself as a creative person. The idea that I interpret my work. Silencing self-criticism. Thinking about restriction as a creative challenge. And the last part, what did you learn about creativity? Creativity is not such a foreign place. Creativity is more accessible than expected. Creativity can be incorporated in all areas of life. Creativity happens in times of letting go. Creativity is about tapping into internal resources. Creativity is fun. Everyone is creative. Some are more creative than others. You have to let yourself be creative. Creativity is a group experience. We all feed each other's creativity. There is joy in creativity. And finally, creativity and shared experience are at the heart of team building. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Now, my question, David, everyone seems so engaged in your photos other than that one photo with that lady. Was that because of the yellow sloppy Joe? Are there any questions for David? I think it was a great way to finish the day. And I've signed my Ivy if you want to take it, I think.
I don't know a huge amount about left and right side of the brain, but my guess is that we've been activating one particular side for the bulk of this project, and that the 15 minutes, the 10-15 minutes that you spent actually activated the other side, and there is this kind of release that takes place when we have equilibrium, or when we address equilibrium.
I was just going to add to that about the silencing, which was a great, how do you stop thinking? And you can't, but you can do that, and you think you can. That racket isn't there.
Yeah. One of these participants actually, in some of the feedback, actually said to me, this is true, I couldn't believe he said it. He said that he was actually quite intimidated by the idea that he was going to be doing an art project with an artist. Okay, that was a little bit stressful for him. And I just laughed because, I live in this world called Planet David, where there are 50 million voices going on in my head. And the choice is, do I listen to the ones that disempower me or the ones that empower me, right? And sometimes I get them confused. Anyway, I explained how I had to park my 1991 Suzuki in the same car park as these people. I said, you think I'm stupid? You think I didn't Google each one of you and find out how much you earned? I said, I'll tell you stress. I had to carry my crap out of the car park, past your cars, into this room. I said, I look at you people and I go into meltdown. Not handsome enough, not thin enough, didn't read the right newspapers enough, don't drive the right car, didn't go to the right school, didn't do any of that stuff, right? But all it is internal dialogue. It's actually not reality. The reality is the space, is the conversation. Yeah.
Question up the back.
I just wanted to say thank you, and I don't want to bring the mood down, but I was disappointed to see a lot of people head for the door when they saw, I don't know whether it was art or interactive, but I think in this sort of forum, a CSR area, this is part of the changes that we're trying to see, and I think it's a shame that it's all an intellectual pursuit for some people. So
Yeah.
Thank you for bringing this back in.
Here.